Up next, from Los Angeles, and to discuss the comedy scene in the 90s that included Lara, please welcome to the stage Wendy Wilkins, everybody.
Yes, I think there is some comics here, but they're going to be doing other things, so I am going to be discussing comedy. Lara's comedy. And I was so freaking lucky to see Lara's first set that she ever did stand-up, which preceded her poetry days. And the first time I saw her on stage, I was like, she's 18, I've already been doing it 10 years. She was so insightful and surreal and just intelligent, and I went, screw it, I'm gonna give up, because if I've been doing it 10 years, I'm not even close to what she's doing. There's no need for me to keep going. But I found her afterwards, and I started talking to her, and she reminded me of Darlene from Roseanne. Do you guys? She's like, that long black hair and the flannel, she always had a flannel on. And she was so surly, and I loved her instantly. And she's like, well, I gotta go catch the bus. And I was like, wait, I'll drive you home. So, because when I first moved to LA, I did not have a car, and I begged rides. So when I did have a car, I said to myself, whenever somebody comes along and they need a ride, I'm taking them. So for the next 5 years, whenever I could, and we were at the same open mic, I'm like, come on, I'll drive you home. And I drove her home, and we had the best conversations in that car. You know, really there's nothing in common between us other than a severe disappointment in our families. And then that's where we connected. I mean, she's a Hawaiian girl, you know, who has really had a tough life, and I'm a white girl from the suburbs. So, but we really connected, and I learned so much from her. And there was no 10 years between us. It was like we were great friends, and we hung out, and we partied with these British chemists who used to come to our comedy shows all the time. It's a very long story. Anyways, but we bonded, and I'm going over my notes. Okay, so for some reason in the comedy world, this has kind of happened to me my whole life, I turned out to be everybody's accidental big sister. So I do yell at people for smoking, and you know, I'm like, you're gonna get cancer, knock it off, and then and give them rides home and stuff like that. But with Lara, it was different. I was super protective of her. I really was like, anytime anybody messed with her, I was like, knock it off, knock it off. And so one night, I had the privilege of being in a room. This has happened to me twice in the world. There's so many words in the world. It's very rare you ever get to be in a space when a word is invented. And it's happened to me twice. I worked on this TV show, and this guy invented the word shitballs, and it is now in the vernacular. And I was at the comedy show at the Gypsy Cafe in Westwood, and Lara told a joke, and the punchline of a joke, she used the word rapey. And not only was it brilliant, but I was also I was fired up, because I was like, what the, So she had to talk me down from beating her ex up because of that joke. But the only way that Lara knew how to take that pain was to make it into a joke. And that's what comics do. We take our pain and turn them into jokes, and that's our therapy, and that's how we get through life. And she had a lot of therapy to do, and she did it brilliantly, better than any other person out there that could have done it. When Facebook announced that she had a week to live, I hadn't seen her for about 10 years. And I wondered why. And it was mainly because I figured it out. I did the math back. Happy comics aren't good comics. So when I fell in love with my husband, I kind of stopped doing comedy. And I hadn't seen her on the circuit either. And I realized that she switched from comedy to poetry about the same time when she fell for Sam. And it was just organic and good, and it made me feel good. And I was so happy that she was happy, that maybe not happy, that's maybe not the right word for Lara, but she had found a peace within herself with another soulmate. And I had too, because you keep doing comedy if you're dating somebody and you're not so sure. But the one, you do. But the one that you know is right for you, you stop and you go home. You're like, I don't need to be here with a bunch of these idiots. Anyways, that's maybe not the right word for them. And by the way, there is a joke in here about a haiku champ. Yeah, all right, I'm not reading it though. So I got in the car and drove to Sacramento a month ago. And I walked into the place and Sam gave me a hug and she gave me the brightest smile. And her hair was like everywhere. It was awesome. Her hair was short now, it was just everywhere. And I was like, I love your hair. And I really did, because I'm like, I wish my hair could do that. And she's like, she was still quick and witty. And she goes, yeah, there's a car salesman in Modesto who's just jealous of the hell out of this hair right now. I'm like, oh, you are just the best. And I grabbed what was her cheeks and just told her how brilliant she was and told her that for the rest of my life, no one's ever gonna forget that you invented that word. And I'm always gonna be there to beat anybody up who says otherwise. Because that's what big sisters do. So, right now, and I also said shitballs. Okay, so I'm gonna tell 3 jokes from her notebooks. And these are just, Lara was a storyteller, and in that story was the brilliance. I was on what might have been a date a couple of weeks ago with an alcoholic, jobless, homeless guy. Not a real homeless guy, more like homeless chic. But so we got dinner and we had a couple of beers, and when I saw a couple, I literally mean 2, but you know, he's been drinking, well, for about a year, I think. And as we're walking away from the bar, he says, wait, I think I have to puke in a plant a bit. In the same tone, most of us would say, hold a while, I need to tie my shoes. And then I witnessed what was probably the most casual puking ever. And I can't judge, because there was that whole period of my life when if I didn't puke at least once, it wasn't a fun night. And then this is what comics do, we just have like a thought, we don't really have a whole thing. She wrote, I'm a reverse snob. All right. This next one's about the bus. I like the bus. Well, I don't like the bus, but I hate driving. But a few things have happened over the course of a few days, about 5 years ago, that has made me realize that I need to get off the bus. And now I'd like to start the bit I like to call 3 days on the bus. Day 1. The man sitting across the aisle from me is so large and misshapen that he had to have his clothes specially made for him. And I know this is true because I can see the masking tape. 2 teeth, and he's carrying a worn leather briefcase, and as he gets up, I see what reddish-orange liquid dripping out of it. Somehow, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Day 2, an old woman in knee socks is sitting in the front of the bus. She's muttering to herself about racism and courtesy. She then starts a shouting match with a woman with a young child. The fight ends when the young mother says, hey, look lady, I got a little kid here, why don't you shut the fuck up? Day 3, the bus is a bit overcrowded, the bus driver has a nervous breakdown and leaves. The passengers begin to hurl angry accusations at each other. Well, you wouldn't have moved back. Well, I'm not the one who brought on a cheeseburger. Why don't you get the fuck off? No, you get the fuck off. The boisterous riot is quelled when another bus shows up and everyone acts like the whole thing never happened. And the last one's called Church Fair. All right, I just named it that. When I was little, my mom used to take me and my sister to the annual fair at the Catholic Church across the street. She was an atheist with leftist leanings, and every year she'd convince us that if we didn't watch our step, priests that looked like the hooded minions of a cartoon death would emerge from the shadows behind the Ferris wheel and drag us down to some dark church basement where they would dress us up in dark plaid uniforms. and smack our wrists with rulers until we could remember scripture. Or at least that's what I heard when she said, "Don't talk to anyone at the fair." I could never figure out why she kept taking us every year. So hopefully when Sam comes down, Nazmo and I can get together a whole bunch of comics and we'll do another comic night. You guys will all be invited. We'll send it out to the memorial group. Two last things. One is I've had my own fight with lady part issues, and if you do anything in life, go get your dangles and yahas checked. Get that super HPV test, and get every test you can imagine, because if you can head it off at the pass, which I was lucky to do at 25, or I wouldn't be standing here today at 45, then do it. Your health is the most important thing in the world, and it just sucks that now we have super gonorrhea and super HPV and super herpes. So please, it's a reality, just get it done. This is just the last little thing Laura wrote in one of her books. Maybe a willingness to die doesn't spring from self-hatred or pretension. Maybe in order to truly live, you've just got to accept death as the logical conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.